I would like to welcome our speaker for today. We have Genevieve Piturro with us. I had the great honor of being a colleague during a TEDx this summer with Genevieve, and her TEDx was absolutely amazing. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Genevieve's LinkedIn. It's all over the place. It's very inspiring. I highly recommend checking that out. Genevieve is the founder of the Pajama Program. Excuse me. I always call it Pajama Project for some reason. For the Pajama Program, which is just an absolutely amazing nonprofit that supports kids. I won't spoil your story if you're going to include that in your e-talk, but
okay.
Genevieve was in television marketing and basically had one instance changed the course of her life. And I think it's just an absolutely amazing story. And today she'll be speaking with us about passion driving entrepreneurship. And I don't want to spoil your thunder at all. So at this point, I'll turn it over to you, Genevieve. And please, if you're comfortable with it, everyone, could you turn your cameras on just so we can all see each other's smiling faces. And throughout this, if you have any questions, please feel free to either throw it in the chat and I can help moderate, or just hop on in and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for that lovely introduction about my TEDx. And I hope you've all seen, probably have seen Rob's equally inspiring. It's all about you guys and all about what you're doing together, which is so impressive to me. When he told me that Iona offers a major in entrepreneurship, that's so inspiring, especially now. We were talking a few minutes ago about these 8 months of people being frozen, all of us being afraid. And, the last thing we want to do is think about starting something new. We're trying to hold on to jobs and put food on the table and pay our rent. And I get that, but it's so great that you are putting it right out in front, because, I'll talk about it later, but we need to give that gift, that dream, keep it alive in ourselves. And we all have that dream, we all secretly, or, we give it voice, that passion, a passion project that we want to pursue as our career, as our life. So as Rob said, I have a little presentation, and I'm going to first tell you my story personally, because it's what changed everything for me. And I put in the chat that I don't need to wait to the end to say, does anybody have any questions? I'd love this to be a discussion. If you want to say something, start speaking. I will gladly give you the floor, or if you have a question or want to speak and you want to put it in the chat, then I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. And if it's a discussion, that'd be great. And I'll ask some questions along the way. So hopefully that there'll be more voices than mine till the end. And I'll go back and forth with a presentation, because I want you to have a face and eyes to look at, as well as a couple of slides that might help illustrate something. So if there's anyone that resonates with anything I'm going to say, pop it in the chat. I thought climbing the corporate ladder with a job that would lead me to the 40th floor of some corporation was the best, was success, was status, was a job well done, and the most rewarding thing that I could do. And I always wanted that freedom. I'm the firstborn of 4, and my dad came off the boat from Italy and wanted to come here. His father brought him here so he could have a better life. He was an only child, and that his family would have every opportunity. And of course, back in the 40s and 50s, coming to America was the better opportunity. And so he and his dad got on a boat and sailed about 20 days to New York. And they were supposed to come with my dad's mother, but when she arrived at the port in Italy, she sneezed a few extra times, and they said too sick to sail. And so the boys were off on their own, which I think they had a grand time. And my grandmother did join about a year later. So my dad was 15 and didn't speak English, but like I said, he wanted an education, and he did go to college, and he met my mom, who was in America, but her parents were from Italy, and they started a very traditional family. And I know this because it was expected of me to get an education, but get married and have children pretty soon after the graduation day, which I always wondered, like, why the emphasis on a college education if you really wanted grandchildren and the continuation of this, European Italian tradition. But that's what they really wanted. But I had a different idea. I wanted to be that single woman with the incredible drive, and I pursued that. So it didn't make for a very easy transition when I went to college and decided, I wasn't going to get married to the guy they thought I was going to marry. So here I was climbing the corporate ladder, total workaholic, with my eye on that big office and that big job in marketing in TV in Manhattan. I bought a co-op and I was being promoted. And like I said, I thought that was great. 12 years in, I was in my co-op by myself, and I heard a voice that asked me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? Well, I can't tell you how that shook me. I heard the voice, and it didn't come from here. You know how we're constantly hearing the gibbering, the chatting here? It wasn't that. It was distinctly different, and it came from here. I've learned, and I now call it my heart voice. So that question shocked me. I sat down in the moment, and I realized instantly it wasn't enough. I had filled my life with things and goals that helped others achieve more things and their goals. It left me alone. I was single, and I realized I'm going to be alone the rest of my life. What am I doing to better anyone else's life, to make any difference, to feel part of something greater, to be participating in some kind of a goal that makes things better for people? I had nothing to show for any of those things. That in that moment, that heart voice, that higher self, the universe, whatever you call it personally, challenged me with. I realized that at that mid-30s, that I was going to be very difficult to go out, find somebody, get married, and have kids. And that wasn't the path that would have satisfied me. And I thought, how else can I bring children into my life? I realized that's what I was missing, my own family, my own children. And pre 9/11, you could do what I did. I called up shelters. First, I called the police to ask them where they bring the children that I'd seen on the news and heard that were taken away from those people who were supposed to care for them, but were hurting them. And the police gave me numbers of shelters, and I called those shelters and I asked, can I come in and read to the children at night? Now, I don't know what made me say that, but I was following this heart voice, and that was my instinct. So they were really welcoming. I went in with some storybooks I bought after a long day's work, like 7:30, and I went into the first shelter. Now I saw these things on TV, but it wasn't my world. And my parents, my mom didn't work. We stretched every dollar. I mean, just, napkins for toilet paper. We were not rich by any means. I still had no clue what life was like for these kids until I saw the room they brought me into to wait for the kids. There was nowhere for me to sit, only a couple of small chairs that were really old and a tattered rug. And I just plopped myself on the floor with my plastic bag of books in my business suit. And I saw a few faces at the door. And they brought these children in who saw me on the floor, and they sat on the floor with me. They were ages, I'd say 5 to 10. And they were so quiet. And I just knew it was going to be nothing like I thought. I was silly enough to think I was going to have a party, which was the opposite. All I did was read. I was scared too. So I read the stories. They brought the children to another room to go to sleep. So week after week, different shelters, that was the scenario. One night, I followed to where they were taking these children to go to sleep. And when I peered into that room, which was just as bare as the one that I was in, nothing on the walls, futons and couches, and a couple of kids together to try to go to sleep in the clothes they were wearing, which were soiled, some were ripped, didn't fit them well. I had these flashbacks of my mom's bedtime for us, which was wonderful and joyful and loving. And it was just such a stark observation of how different life was and would be for these children than my modest upbringing. And the only thing I can think of when staff were taking me back to the door to leave was, could I bring some pajamas next week? So they thought that was lovely. And all week, all I could think about was the pajamas I could bring to these kids and seeing that picture of how they were supposed to have a good night's sleep. So the next time I brought a bag of pajamas, so many, so that I wouldn't leave any child out, and books. I sat down and I read the stories just like I'd been doing in the past. And at the end, I said, kids, I have a special surprise for you. I want you to stand in a line and I have a gift. So they did that. There must have been a dozen kids or so. And one by one, I took out what I thought would fit the child in front of me, and I gave them a pair of pajamas. And I said, I hope you sleep well. And these pajamas are for you. The child would take them and go with the staff to the other room and go to sleep. About halfway through the line, there was a little girl, and she came up to my hips. I'd say she was maybe 6. And her clothes were soiled. They were so short. Her pants were like floods. They were so small, so short and tight. Her sneakers were like size 10. They were huge. Her shirt was pink and soiled. Her ponytails were like lopsided, and she was so frightened. So I showed her a pair of pink pajamas that I thought would fit her. I pulled out of my bag, and all she did was shake her head. She did not want them, and I didn't know why. I tried again and again. She said nothing. She just shook her head no. So I didn't know what to do, and they took her to go to the other room, but she made it known that she didn't want to go into the other room. She wanted to stand on the side and watch me give them to the rest of the kids. So they let her, and I gave them to the rest of the kids. I still saw her out of the corner of my eye. When all the kids had their pajamas, and she was standing with a staff person, I went over and I knelt down with the same pair of pajamas I had held off for her. And I tried again. I tried to coax her into taking the pajamas. I tried to show her how warm they would feel by rubbing them on her hand. And I said, honey, don't you want your pajamas? And she looked at me and she whispered to me, what are pajamas? What are they? And in that moment, everything changed. And I became obsessed with filling this hole that I knew wasn't just in their life or their bedtime, it was in their heart. And I found myself having to explain to this little girl what pajamas are that you change to go to sleep at night. And I asked her what she wore, and she just tugged on her pants and she whispered, my pants. And when they put them on her, I saw her give me a little smile before they closed the door, and that was it. So whether you want to call that entrepreneurial start or an obsession, maybe it's the same thing, or a defining moment, or the heart voice, that nagging voice that tells you you're on the wrong track, there's something else out there that you're supposed to be doing. It was all that wrapped up in one. And over the 20 plus years of Pajama Program, so many things happened. And in that entrepreneurial stretch, there were so many lessons that I learned, that I share about life, about starting something, knowing nothing, about the effect of the human connection. And my book was just published in August, and it's called Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas. Oh, it's here. Mm-hmm. And the subheading is How to Transform Your Life, Embrace the Human Connection, and Lead with Meaning. And I think, yeah.
So Genevieve, I have a question. So
Yes,
in that transition, like when you were, when you said you were in your apartment and you felt that, where you were was not where you needed to be. Were you
right.
scared about that pivot? Were you feeling like, you know what, like I'm just gonna let it flow, which then led you to where you ended up meeting these children? Or were you like, what was the feeling? Were you scared, nervous? Like your risk tolerance, how was it?
Right.
And
In that moment, I was spooked. I didn't understand the whole idea of purpose. I
right.
thought purpose was for Oprah and Albert Einstein and Deepak Chopra and people, over there
Mhm.
with major, major projects and things that changed the world. I did not know then that everybody had a purpose. So I didn't even call it my purpose. I didn't even call it entrepreneurial. I just had this
Wow.
pull and this idea that I knew I had to see where it would take me. I
Mhm.
did not know what was to come. And there were times I was more scared later
Right.
because as I saw where it was going and my passion and obsession,
Hmm.
a lot of things were scary along the way. And I can touch on a few of them because it's scary. I mean, I just launched my book 2 months ago in a quarantine pandemic. Why I didn't stay put, with my job as executive director of Pajama Program, and I wanted to give it up to somebody who could take it to the next level after 20 years so I could write a book and speak about these life lessons.
Right.
I think, what did I do? It's just always, there's always fear in
Mhm.
anything new. And I don't believe anybody who says there's no fear.
Right, right. You need a
But
little bit of it.
yeah, I mean, it pushes us, it tests us. We're
Mhm,
up for the challenge. You
mhm.
know, it's scary, and things have knocked me down, and I can share some of those, and I'm certain you will understand that I am you, and you are me, and you are each other, because it's not smooth sailing, but is it worth it? Yes,
Okay.
it's always worth it, whether it's a big success or something you tried, it took you on a different path than you thought. It's always worth it to listen to that heart voice and to just go for the brass ring. Just go for it.
Okay.
Anybody else have a defining moment or defining moment yet that is triggering your entrepreneurial spirit or a new idea?
That's why I asked, because that's what's happening to me. Like these
Ah,
few months, and it's all leading towards this. And it's been like the nonprofit and like social impact has been a part of like me since the moment I started connecting with entrepreneurship a few years ago. And this past few months, I'm actually taking a course with Stanford University on how to build and assess nonprofits and like how to, go from where I'm at to like where I need to be. But
mhm.
it's just I've had that like my obsession, that how you say, my passion towards like bringing access to entrepreneur education specifically in disadvantaged communities like fuels me, because the impact
Mhm.
that it has had on me has been transformative. So I've just been like, I don't know, that sense of purpose, like everything is closing in, and like the clarity of like how I need to move to like lead or to be a part of this dream that I have. It's I don't know, it gives me goosebumps every day, but it gives me a sense of like, I don't know, like yeah. So yeah.
Yeah,
So this is what's
there's a
happening.
certain amount of independence and freedom that feels so good. It certainly feels better than the fear, but I
Mhm,
know that the fear, takes over, and
mhm,
we just have to get back that freedom and that independence.
mhm.
Then we'll let that one beat the fear. Well, let me ask a couple of you before I start with some slides. AJ, you're in this program. Do you have a specific passion project, or where are you in the?
I mean, maybe not a specific passion project yet, but I just want to say I really enjoyed what you were talking about. And I thought it was an amazing story. And then, I don't know. I mean, I did blow out my knee when I was in high school, and I wasn't, or like, there were some colleges that were interested in me at, and then like the colleges dropped off when I completely blew out my knee, and it really did suck. And I don't know, maybe people going through a similar thing, maybe like, I don't know, physical therapy is always something like, or maybe helping like these kids kind of maybe like get through like their struggles after they get hurt, like because it really does suck. And I don't know.
I know, I'm sorry about that, but you're right. The most successful business starters, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them, are people with personal stories. AJ, that's an incredible personal story. And that's what is I think, our best tool,
Mhm.
that we can share that story, and
Thank you.
people will rally for you, and you'll find we all have to find our, as they're calling them now, our pod of supporters, and people who are going to get it and be there for us, and be our clients, and be our friends, and be our supporters because of your story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I still play rugby too. I actually was able to come back from that too.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So you still have that in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And one more person. How about Malia? Is that how you pronounce it? Malia?
I think Chris has something too,
Yeah.
but we'll have both
Okay.
go. If it's
Okay, we'll go to Chris too. Malia,
Yes.
is there something particular that you want to, a project that you want to get off the ground?
I think so. For the project I'm doing right now, it's not exactly my passion, but it's something I'm really interested in. I'm not sure what my passion would be, so I think I'd still be finding that. But yeah, but your story is very inspirational. I think I'm still waiting for that moment till I know what it is.
I was 38, so you have time. I didn't know until that moment, and it wasn't something I was even looking for. So if you keep your eyes open and you want to find it, you're going to have much better luck than me waiting till 38. Chris?
Yes, I was gonna say your immigration story was almost as similar as my grandparents when they came here.
Mm.
And yeah, with the whole sneezing thing, that's what my grandma did. Sneezed and they wouldn't let her on the boat.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question. And Rob even knows this. I'm juggling between two projects. One is like a drinking game that I put on the side, and the other one is a product where you can, or earbuds where you can swim with them and they're completely waterproof. And what I'm trying to say is I'm struggling between the two. I don't know which I should go along with because I like both the products. I feel like they could be both successful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm partial because I'm a swimmer, and I swim with the Apple iPod that's waterproof. And so those earphones, yeah, that's my personal pick. But well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with both. I mean, I think for entrepreneurs, once we start something, we have like 5 projects that are always going. And I think, yeah, if you have 2, just continue along. One of them will show more, more gain. And that might be the one that you want to put a lot of effort into it. If you have to make a living, with one of them, then that's a consideration. If they're both for fun, go for it.
Right.
Yeah. What's the drinking game? What's a little bit more about that?
It has to do with social distancing a little because of everything. It's like beer pong, except you use like a little slingshot contraption. So you try to shoot the balls into the cup so that each team has their own amount of balls, so no one's like touching each other's cups, and like it's reduces spread of germs. And I feel like it'd be a better competition in today's world.
It's a great social media visual. Have you put it on social media?
No, but now I'm writing that down right now.
I mean, that could take off and go viral. That's a lot of fun if you show a bunch of people doing that, not in a bar, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, but in your backyard or wherever you can do it in this weather and under a tent or the heater. That's pretty cool. I know my nephews would watch because they had me playing that, and we would just spread apart at a big round table.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have the slings, but we were trying to throw it far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's fun. Anybody else before I do a couple of slides? And please interrupt because I don't know that I'll want to use all the slides. I'll keep coming back and forth. But okay. So I told you my story and I told you the question that came to me. So I ask all of you to ask yourself this question. If this is the next 30 years of my life, is it enough? Especially if you have a job, or if you're thinking about looking for a job. And it's an important question. It's a defining question, I think. And I've just put here a heart voice. I believe all of our purposes come from your heart voice. And if everybody do something for me, if I say, point to yourself, point to yourself. Did anybody point here? Nobody pointed, right? Okay, so you don't point here, you point here. And I think that says a lot. And I think that's the voice that you have to train yourself. And you do have to recognize when you're hearing voices, are they coming from here or are they coming from here? And if you listen and you ask your heart voice to speak up, you will hear the difference. You will hear it. Most of us associate heart voices with the emotional things in our life, our family, our loved ones, those things, and our head voices with our jobs and decisions we have to make that are major life decisions. But those decisions can also be heard from your heart. So I think for anyone considering being an entrepreneurial route, what's motivating you? Is it freedom? Is it independence? Is it, a place where you see making so much money, more than you can make at a job? How long have you been thinking about it? And most importantly, what have you been thinking? So the beer game, the different projects that you're talking about, what have you been thinking? So you all know that. So I would say to assess, how critical is your situation? Are you looking to do this immediately? Is this a situation that you have to or you want to do now? And what's the cost of following your passion? I can tell you a little bit about mine when we get there. But is it a financial consideration? Is it a personal sacrifice or a sacrifice for others in your life? And the most important question, to dream, what would it look like if you succeeded, right? That's what we have to always come back to, picturing and knowing our life is going to be exactly what we want. Well, I shouldn't say exactly what we want, but we're going to have control over our lives if we are passionate and follow our dream and put together a solid business and a solid project. If we want to call ourselves an entrepreneur and we want to make our dream happen, just picture how that looks and what that feels like. Now, I call this, if you didn't notice, because I called my nonprofit Pajama Program, I do this in the acronym PAJAMA. So we did the possibilities and we did the assess, and now we're on the J. So there are different ways to start a project, start your entrepreneurial journey. And I say you can either jump or you can slide. I jumped. I could think of nothing else but that little girl and bringing pajamas to her. And I had a good job, and my love and my passion for it was really dwindling compared to what was occupying my head and my heart all day. And the more I brought pajamas to the shelters, the more the shelter staff told others, the more calls I got, the more I was sneaking my work hours to filling these orders, I say, going out in every chance I could get, sneaking out of the office to buy pajamas, going there at every break I could get, carrying pajamas and books, just occupied my head so much that over the course of a few months, I knew I was going to get fired. And, I was not that responsible. I didn't have a plan. All I did, I had handwritten notes about everything. And to see now, 20 years later, that we have 60 chapters nationwide, we've given 7 million plus new pajamas and new books to children. The exposure and the support we've had has been incredible. This story really took off because of the human connection that I'll get to in a little while. But I took the jumping in route, but that's my personality. I'm always the type that will jump into the water and then learn how to swim. Now, some of you are like that. was the sliding people. And if I had thought about it, I guess sliding would have made more sense, but my personality wasn't going to let that happen.
Genevieve, good question. Were you self-funding this whole process for these first few months, or were people donating, or were you just going on the whim of just trying to get pajamas from wherever you can?
Yeah, I was getting them for wherever I can. I wasn't self-funding. I was self-getting indebting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was taking those credit cards and I was spending every penny that didn't go to the mortgage of my co-op. And I was not being very responsible. And I was racking up because I was just thinking about how much I could get and bringing it. And I didn't know how much support I would have. I didn't tell many people. I didn't tell anyone, and I'll tell you the story. Because what was I going to say? I'm thinking about leaving my job to give pajamas to children in shelters. What do you think of that?
Amazing.
Okay, I didn't think anybody would have any respect for me. I didn't have any answer to any question they would ask me after I made that announcement. So I told no one. And I just ran myself ragged. Right now, I know having money to put food on the table is the thing, the number one thing. I get it. It might not be the time for everyone to say, oh, I have some money in the bank. I think I'll just quit and I will go and start an organic, farm. I get that. But what I don't want to see happen, which breaks my heart, is for so long, so many have put the passion, the purpose, whatever that is that you want to do so much and are afraid to do, it's been on the back burner for so long. We always say, one day when I retire, when I get this much money in the bank, when my kids are grown, when I find somebody who understands me, when. And that back burner just, it stays, your project stays on the back burner for a long time. And during this pandemic, I hate to see anybody put it further back. So I've been saying, bring it as a gift to yourself now. Slide whatever that love, passion project is, slide it into your life for 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week, whether it's starting the organic farm, whether it's opening your own pet shelter, whatever it is, learning how to teach, becoming a teacher, and anything you want to do, open a senior center, anything you want to do for 1 hour. If you can participate in something in person, do that. If not, spend the hour researching, contacting people in that field on the internet. 1 hour, because that's a gift that I think is so precious and so important to give ourselves now so that we feel that hope and optimism. That's what we need now, not to push it further back. So I have a whole thing for people that I coach, and I teach master classes on the process of starting with how many, 5 ideas, bring it down, how you bring it down to 3, how you know the one is the one you want to slide into your life, but slide that love, passion into your life for 1 hour a week. Just give yourself that gift and let's see where it goes. So here it is. Do you want it as a full-time job now? Do you want it on the side? Are there financial considerations? How badly do you want to make a change? And is there anyone that has to be involved in the decision? Now, back to my story. Over this beginning times, I met a man and I really, really knew that I could be with him, and I felt that he wanted to be with me. Now, I had to decide how and when to say to this man, this nice job I have, that I'm climbing the corporate ladder, and you're thinking that we'll be a 2-income family one day, and this is who you think I am. Well, I'm thinking about quitting so I could give pajamas to kids in shelter. So that was a question that I had to think about how to approach with this man, because I knew it was time to be honest. Now, nobody else knew I was going to do this because I was just doing it silently and trying to hold on to my job for dear life because I needed the money to buy pajamas. And when I told him this, the first thing he said was, go for it. And I said, thank you, universe, because I knew that voice had come from somewhere outside of me, and I chose to say it was the universe, God, and we all have whatever we rely on, our higher self, a deity, a voice. And that was the beginning of trusting that the universe is our partner. And I think that although he was new in my life, that it would affect him. And it certainly did. It certainly did. And I go into detail in my book about the ups and the downs of a relationship for me as an entrepreneur, for me and starting something I knew nothing about, and the impact it had on our life, on our financial situation, on our relationship. And, you know, it's also a love story because it worked out in many ways, and it's a love story on many levels, but it is something to think about because entrepreneurs are known for being obsessed. And I think it's a good thing, but it is something to remember if there's somebody else to consider, or more than one other person to consider. So, so the next A is, what do you need to prepare? And some of you may be miles further than this. And this is going back in my book, in one of the chapters. At the end of every chapter, I do the heart of the matter takeaways, the lessons I learned step by step in each chapter. So here are some of the things that I had to, going back, I had to realize that are things that I could share with people who are thinking about starting something from ground zero. One of the people, after I told this man what I wanted to do, and he was supportive, is I told a colleague, girlfriend, who wasn't in my exact business, but she was also climbing the corporate ladder. And when I told her what I just told you about, I'm thinking about quitting my job and giving, she looked at me like I had three heads, and we had each had a couple of glasses of wine, and she still sobered up to say, are you kidding? You've worked for 12 years. You know, you're like me. You want success and you want things and you want to travel. What are you talking about? Can't you do that on a Saturday afternoon? And she was just, it was a sucker punch. And I was just so floored by her lack of compassion. I'm sure she's a compassionate person, but compassion for me and consideration for me, and just the idea that maybe I felt the track we were on was self-serving and wasn't helping anyone. And I had this change of heart, so to speak. And her response really set me back, really brought up all the doubts, because really, what was I doing giving kids pajamas? Was I changing their lives? No. What was I doing? I just had this knowingness that I think we as entrepreneurs have, that we know something, and that we know that there's a reason why this is meant to be in existence in the world, what we're doing, what we're making. But I didn't have my cheerleaders in place except this one man. So after I was down for a while, just, you know, berating myself and full of doubt, I went to my mom and I went to my dad and I went to my family that knew and loved me. And they rallied around me. They just knew. They knew me. And I should have gone to them first, because I would never have let her knock me so far down. So I always say, get your cheerleaders in place, because then any naysayer along the line will just challenge you, but you can bounce back so much faster. Do you need more research or education? I did. When a national magazine wrote a little tiny article this big about Pajama Program, and boxes, thousands of boxes and packages and new pajamas and books and letters and cash arrived at my co-op, one letter said, please send us your 501c3. We'd like to give you a grant. I looked at the man who was my husband at that time, who I married, and said, what is this 501c3 thing? I didn't even know to be a national nonprofit, to be a nonprofit of any kind, you had to have this 501c3 certificate and be legitimate. And that was a revelation. And that I was so in, you know, in the trenches with doing the work that I had to get my act together, because I realized, looking at the sea of boxes and packages and letters, that it wasn't just a choice I had made that I could just do on my own time, but it was a responsibility, and that there were others involved now. So I had to educate myself and find the least expensive, beg, borrow, steal financial people, an attorney, the people in the know. So I had to do that. Financial changes, I got into debt and I had to, dig myself back out. And that was stressful and very hard, not very smart of me, but the obsession, my entrepreneurial obsession, really took over. Time management, it was all for Pajama Program, and I'm sure many of you know how that feels. All these things on the list were considerations. I wouldn't say it was someone's disappointment 9, but I would say that an entrepreneur, and I'm guilty, was, all about what I was doing. And many times, my husband would be talking to me, standing in front of me, I wouldn't hear a word he'd say. And so I talk about that when I teach or when I coach, because it is a factor, and there are probably better ways to do it than I did. So comes a time where you make your decision if you're all in, and it is a big step. And I know it feels like this. And I know it feels like this. And you are fighting like ping pong table. One day one day the next. One day, why did I do this? One day, this is the most exciting, thrilling thing I could ever do. And then in order to arrive throughout this journey, to arrive finally and park yourself and make a statement, you can say, this is real and I have this to show for it. It's setting your goals. You can read the list here. It's making an orderly plan and seeing it through and dotting the I's and crossing the T's and keeping your eye on that finish line. And most of all, I think it's the best life as an entrepreneur. The best life is when you bring you. And it's just like we were saying, I think it was it AJ who had the knee, right?
Yeah.
Bring your story.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is going to resonate with people. They're going to care more when you're sharing something from your heart that's personal than if you say, I made this hairband because I think other people would love it and it's going to work really well. That means nothing. That has no emotional pull to anyone.
Thank you.
But AJ, you have a story, and all of you have a story, and that is the key to your success: your passion, your story, and your connection. And the human connection, that's one of my subtitles. All I had 22 years ago was my voice, and I told everybody that story of that little girl. And most people, you don't need everyone, you need people who get it. The people who heard that story, they got that connection to the little girl, and they didn't even need me. They just needed to hear that story.
Mm-hmm.
And that human connection was and is the key to success.
Mm-hmm.
And people say all the time, and if any of you hear this, I want you to remember, people are going to tell you, oh, look at the power of one. You did it. You did this. Look what you did. It wasn't here before. And it's all about the power of one. No, it's about the power of one another. That's what I hope you remember, because you will experience that and you will see for yourself. You're not doing it alone. You're doing it because you shared. So bring you. Funny, silly, your loves, your story. So stay in your lane. I always say, stick to your map. Don't speed, don't take shortcuts, limit your backseat drivers. And one of the most important things that I ever learned that someone told me was to celebrate all the steps, all of your triumphs, big or small. That phone call that you get, that supporter that says, I like what you're telling me, tell me more. Stop, have a drink, play a game of pong with your with your friends, beer pong, go out, have a long phone call, get silly, do whatever it is to celebrate every step along the way, because you need those for those days you are reevaluating and you're losing sleep. I did. And you're crying into your pillow. I did. You need to celebrate all those. Don't let it just pass by without recognizing and thanking the people who, and sharing with the people who are helping you make those advancements. So here's the pajamas. What are your possibilities? Assess and evaluate your situation. Is it a jump or a slide? What do you need to prepare? Adjust. Make your decision. You need to arrive. What do you need to do to arrive safely? And stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Steer yourself like an arrow right to your finish goal. And if you doubt yourself, which we all do, and you're not sure you have what it takes to keep that dream alive, I suggest you go back to that question and ask yourself, if this is the next 30 years of my life, is it enough? Some people call it the rocking chair test. When you're 85 and you're in that rocking chair by yourself, evaluating your life, how do you answer that question? Did you do it? That's it. So let me stop sharing. Oh, yeah, please follow. Please connect with me so I can connect with you. And email me, tell me what you're doing. There's a button on my homepage that says schedule a call. I'd love to hear, be an ear. If I can ever help, let me know. But please let me know what you're doing so I can be supportive. So just connect with me there. And Rebecca, you are on. Do you have a passion project? Do you have something that you're thinking is your life's work?
I'm not sure about life's work yet. Sorry, it's so dark in here, but I'm not too sure about life's work, but I do have a project that I've been working on in class with Professor Kistner and in another entrepreneurship class. It's an app to help students study so basically it's called Study Songs, and you pick whatever song you like your your song, an old song, a popular song, and you take a picture of your notes or you upload your notes to the app, and the app will generate the notes into lyrics to the song.
Wow.
Wow, very cool.
So I've been working on that and kind of just I have a bunch of different ideas about like the audience and who exactly it's for and just exactly how the app will work. So my brain has kind of been scrambled and I've been thinking about a bunch of different things, and Professor Kistner's been helpful along the way. So it's definitely something I'm interested in and I'm kind of passionate about, but I don't know if it's something I would do for the rest of my life necessarily, but we'll see.
Wow, very, very cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that idea.
Rebecca.
Thank you.
Wow. That's what happens in Rob's class, guys. That's what happens.
Yeah, you have to be free and let your mind go where it wants to go. That's great. Great.
Thank
Well,
you.
good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, I can go.
Okay. Yeah. What's your passion project?
Yeah, I'm super into like helping minority entrepreneurs. So I've been putting myself in different projects that would kind of serve in like my overall mission to do so.
That's great. Do you want to support to help get funding?
So it's
Do you have
like,
a
yeah,
particular-
with like funding and like providing like resources for them.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, good, good.
Love it.
Anybody else?
I can go.
Yes, Anthony. Hi.
Yeah, so for my project, I'm working on a phone case that everyone can use, or mainly first was people with dexterity issues, because sometimes I guess people have a personal phone and a work phone, and so my idea was to have that features that it can it will make it easier to hold. And then on my survey, someone said that there should be a case for everyone, which gave me an idea just to make multiple cases. I did like 3 drawings, and like one of them has like I said has a built-in ring for people who don't have all their fingers, but still have the half of it, so like they can still hold the phone, or have, and each case has like certain grips or features that make it easier to press the button. Like has like a built easier wallet system, so like because people mainly they can carry their cards or money in their phones and whatnot. Like I see people just taking apart their phone just get the card out. I'm like, and there are built-in wallet cases, but those always tend to break.
That's good. You observed this and you have people who are telling you what they need and you're acting on it. That's great, Anthony.
Yeah, and also I put in like and Professor Kistner agreed on this. I put in that feature because on each case with the volume power button, it always does not work, or or instead of volume going up, it goes down. And so I put in like, why not put an actual button that works, and he agreed on that.
That's good. Yes. That's great. That's really, really great. I'm sure you're going to have some people who are going to want to support that, some groups, and people are going to say, wow, why did it take somebody so long? Right? You're the guy.
Yeah. And because like, and it's, I know like my father, he has he doesn't have problems, but I know he has a personal phone and a work phone. So like, and it must mean other people have that as well. But if someone has a problem like holding the device, how are they going to manage to make an important phone call or etc.?
Right. Well, he's your focus group, so that's good. You have you have somebody close who's their focus group. Anybody else have anything else to share, or can relate, or have a question, or want to tell us something about what you're doing?
To be honest, when I was listening to you and your story, a part of like what happens to me as like I ideate a lot, right? So as I was listening to you, I was just trying to focus in on a few things, right? Like to apply to like what I'm doing. And like one of the things that I feel like you helped me with today was, there's nothing wrong with knowing like what you're like, with knowing and focusing in on what you're passionate about and just catering to that one thing, and then starting from there and letting that be and explode to whatever it needs to be. I feel like we tend to sometimes as entrepreneurs try to cater everyone at one point, or try to cater too many people. And just to focus in and to say, you know what, if my mission is to inspire other social entrepreneurs, then that's okay, for it to be just a social entrepreneur instead of being, a tech entrepreneur or something else. So yeah,
that's what my last thing was, to steer yourself, stay in your lane. Yeah, I get that. People for 20 years have said, why don't you give kids also some bedtime snacks, and why don't you give them toothbrushes, and and I said, you know what, simple. I'm staying in my lane. And I stayed and I picked it because it was all I could do by myself, pajamas and books. But as it turns out, it was a good little niche.
Right.
And it was easier to say no to people, no to the teddy bears, no to the blankets, no to the toothbrushes.
Because it overcomplicates.
Yes, it does. It does. There are health issues with stuffed animals that aren't new, and you end up having to explain more than if you just say, you know what, all we can handle is new pajamas and new books. We'd love to have you support that. Yeah, stay in your lane, steer yourself,
So
yeah.
thank you.
That's great.
Anybody else? I've loved getting to know some of you, and I hope that we continue to stay connected and Rob, thank you for this opportunity. It was great to
Absolutely.
meet everyone. You're doing such an impressive job. I still can't believe that you have a major, you can offer a major in entrepreneurship. That's so, so great. Congratulations.
Well, I just want to thank you for your time. I know you have a busy schedule, and congratulations on your book. And you know, so much of what you talked about today aligns so well with things that we've been talking about all semester. I mean, one of the things with design thinking is, yes, it's a toolkit to solve problems, but it's ultimately about people, right? And understanding people and empathizing with them about their experiences with different problems. And, you know, this idea of the human connection being the most important part, whether you are on the receiving end of some solution or trying to create a solution for people, it's about the human connection and understanding them as people and their experiences. So, you know, really, really well aligned with the things that we've been talking about. I really appreciate your time.
I'm glad it worked out. Good luck, everyone.